Because he just, at the end of the scene, he just goes, but the baby said there was cake. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Flip the Scripts, a podcast all about adaptations. I am Ankit and Madhira.
And I'm Stephen Nieman.
And this week, we are starting a new series, and it is a series of unfortunate events.
Ooh, yeah. So, if stories about children, being orphans bothers you in any way, we ask you to still watch our podcast. But, if you don't like the Lemony Snicket book, we understand.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, just so you know, the book definitely starts by saying there are very few happy things that happen in these books. So just be prepared for that. But I can promise you this, these episodes will still be funny because, oh boy, do I have some jokes.
You know what's hilarious? There are like moments of like the TV show where like I genuinely did laugh, and I love like there's one character specifically where I'm like, I like the change they made for this character because I think it's hilarious.
I really hope we're thinking about the same character because I do have a favorite.
Oh, hands down. Best favorite. I don't like some of it, but I do have a favorite. Okay, cool. So here we are, series of unfortunate events. So I read the book before Ankit, and I've seen the whole series. I've seen this whole Netflix show a long time ago. I never finished the book series. I've only read up to book 2. So, but I've owned book 1.
That's not very far, Stephen.
I know.
There are 13 books in the series, and you've read 2.
But I've owned book 1 to 11 for like 13 years. I needed a reason to read them, so this is the perfect time.
Is that why we're doing this series?
Yes.
It's just so that you could justify owning 11 books.
I think I bought the last one when I was 13, so like our mitzvah year. I'm 28 now, so 15 years. My bad. So I own 1 through 10. Those are the ones I own. So now I have to literally buy 11 through 13 so I can finish my collection. And I gotta buy the original ones because I have the OG copies with the illustrations that are amazing. I mean, I'll have to bring one on an episode. Maybe the next episode I'll bring one on just to show like how good the illustrations are of the book, of like the original book. The illustrations are like immaculate. It's one of the things that drew me to the book is the illustration on the cover and in the book.
Cool. Do you want to know my background with the books?
Go for it, sir.
I think I read the first one because as I was rereading the first one, I was like, oh, yeah, I know some of these things that happen.
I know these things.
I know this. Oh, yeah, this happens to the child. Oh, this tracks. Oh, she's going to get out of this like, I could piece together some of it. So I think like somewhere in the back of the memory, there was, hey, at some point in your childhood, you read the first book.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
I might have read the second.
I was talking to my friend, Ant, who edits Post Finale, as one of our editors of Post Finale right now. And he was like, oh, Reptile Room. Like, that's my favorite book. So number 2 is Ant's favorite book. And it's crazy to me because I remember Reptile Room probably is my favorite book. It's quite interesting because...
Stephen, you've read 2. You don't get to claim it's your favorite book out of the 2.
Fine. But what I will say is, what's interesting with this series is just like in Harry Potter, or unlike in some of the other series we've read, I would say, every book gets longer, and I think it's quite a fascinating growth because the books do, I think, just like they keep adding 50 to 100 pages every time another volume comes out. So every book gets longer, which I think is helpful for like the longevity of a TV series because obviously we're going to talk about what happened. But I think it's really fascinating because usually the first book is the smallest when it comes to children's books. Like Harry Potter's first book is only 350 pages compared to 732 pages that the last book has, 800 the fifth book has. And
why do you know these numbers off the top of your head?
as a kid, I memorized the heck out of them. I don't know why. I was really fast. As a kid, I was just really fascinated.
You were fascinated by page numbers?
Well, like, I used to read, like, instead of reading chapters as a kid, I used to, because I read Harry Potter, like, every year as a kid. So I used to read 100 pages at a time. So I'd be like, okay, so if I read, after 3 days, I'd have the first book done, and then after these many days, I'd have this book done, and, like, I would, like, measure it by days. And I remember the longest book for me to get through was always the fifth book. And I was like, oh, because it has 856 pages. And I had the old hardbound, like the OG hardbound versions of the book that I ruined. I literally ruined my fifth book. And it was quite funny because it fell apart. Like, literally, I was reading it like one summer and it just fell into two parts.
Now, Stephen, you say that you read these books every year as a kid. You still read these books every year?
I did not finish them in 2023 because we had quite a busy year with the house.
Oh, yeah, things happened. Anyway, back to this series, right? So I have maybe read book 2, but the biggest thing that I remember is that I was still in elementary school when these books were finishing coming out.
Okay.
And so I remember seeing them constantly being advertised at the Scholastic Book Fair.
I think the 13th book came out when I was in high school, actually.
No, it did not.
Did it not? Because I didn't think the series finished.
The series finished, if I am remembering correctly, 1 second, in 2006. You were not in high school.
I was not. I was graduating 6th grade then.
Yeah. So, yeah. The series finished in 2006. So I was in elementary school. When the series finished.
We were both in elementary school then.
Yeah. We were the target audience.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we read it in 2nd or 3rd grade. One of our teachers read it to us out loud. And I specifically remember when we got to like close to the end of the last chapter, we were so into it that when the teacher read the last page of the chapter before the last chapter, the penultimate chapter, if you will, we like screamed when an action happened in the book, and like we pushed her to finish the book, even though like class was about to end, and in elementary school, the teachers have to walk us all out to our parents, and we're like, no, our parents can wait. We gotta finish the book. And I specifically remember this, and I remember that she said, no, we gotta finish it tomorrow. And I remember her taking us to our parents, and I went to my mom, and I was like, I'm upset. And my mom was like, why are you upset? I was like, we didn't finish the book.
Yeah.
But like she left us on the cliffhanger, and like as a kid, like being left on a cliffhanger, that's crazy. Like I think of like being left on a cliffhanger now as an adult, it's still like for instance, I mean, Ankit and I are really into Cobra Kai. Shout out to all my Cobra Kai friends.
I have not seen the new season, so if you're about to talk about the new season, shush.
Dang it.
Sorry, buddy. I've been busy.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, because, well, you know that the new season is split into 2 parts, though, right?
It's split into 3.
3 parts, but you know that, right?
Yes, and it's super dumb.
But okay, so can I just say after part 1 they leave us on a cliffhanger, and so
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but that's what I meant. Like, it was just very aggravating to finish part 1 of a Netflix show and be left on a cliffhanger because it's a Netflix show. And Netflix usually just releases all the episodes at the same time.
Yeah, they're not doing that anymore because now they want people to stay subscribed. And
they learned from Disney Plus, did they?
No, but they're actually losing money now.
Oh, God. So, like, because Disney Plus does it weekly. I mean, we were watching... we tried together to watch Percy Jackson weekly. We failed because we got busy in life, but
we failed miserably.
We did try.
Attempts were made. If you want to see some of those episodes, Patreon. Go check it out.
Yeah, we never finished it, but that's okay. I mean,
yeah. Maybe one day we'll have more thoughts.
We still do this weekly, and I think this is great.
Fantastic. So why don't we jump into some fun facts about this?
Yeah, right? Tell me some fun facts about the series of unfortunate events.
So the series of unfortunate events, as a series as a whole, is written by Lemony Snicket, which is actually a pen name for a author by the name of Daniel Handler.
Oh. So does he write books under Daniel Handler as well, or only Lemony Snicket?
I do not know. I did not do that research.
Oh, I thought you
I
had
can
that
have an
research.
answer for you in the next episode.
You don't have to. I got curious. I was like, oh, I mean, if he's still an author, well, I guess he's an author no matter what. If he's Daniel Handler or Lemony Snicket,
Yeah, it's Lemony Snicket, but it's interesting because Lemony Snicket is also a character in the book and in the series.
Yes, but not in the first book.
In the first book, not explicitly per se.
Yeah, it's a really. We'll talk a lot about that as we go through.
Yeah, but like Lemony Snicket, I do know becomes a part of it, and he's part of this series, so we'll talk about him definitely in this episode. But like, so Lemony Snicket is who the books are by, but it is a pen name. For anyone that doesn't know what a pen name is just an author using a fake name to publish their work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just didn't want to use their real name. Woo. Fun. That is valid. Now, the first book was originally published on September 30th of 1999. And it is called The Bad Beginning.
Mm-hmm.
An audiobook was released in 2003 with narration by Tim Curry.
Oh, Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. Tim Curry.
Did you do the audiobook this time?
I did do the audiobook this time. It was
How
quite
was
good.
it?
I enjoyed it. It was very fun. And actually, I have things about that later in the next episode, mainly.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, it is such a... Yeah, Tim Curry, great. I mean,
Tim Curry.
He's great.
He is wonderful. Now, another fun fact, just because I can give it to you, and we were talking about book pages earlier, it is 162 pages long.
Yeah, it's probably it is the smallest book in the series, yeah.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the actual TV series, the TV series came out in 2017 as season 1, and the first episode was released on January 13th, 2017, and it is titled The Bad Beginning Part 1. Now, if anyone remembers from our episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, when we're doing episodic stuff, we can't go to Rotten Tomatoes because they don't give us ratings for each individual episode, so we will just be looking at the IMDb pages. Now, the writers, do you want to take a wild guess of why this is actually slightly written well?
Wes Anderson is on the writing staff. That was one of my many thoughts while watching the show.
No. So,
Lemony Snicket's on the writing staff.
Daniel Handler, based on the book series as Lemony Snicket. The teleplay is by Daniel Handler. And the story editor is Joe Trax.
Now I feel bad, though, because now I feel like all my critiques are invalid.
Good.
Because they're written by the writer. like, that just ruined our whole podcast plan, Ankit.
It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to play Daniel. You can blame Joe, because he's the story editor.
Okay, we can still complain.
Sorry, Joe. I don't mean to throw you under the bus if you happen to be listening to this. First of all, hello, welcome. Second of all, Stephen needed someone to blame, so you were the only other name there.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think we're going to talk about this more, but one of the biggest issues I have with these first two episodes, this episode and then the next one we'll do next week, is the fact that The Bad Beginning is the shortest book in the whole series, and to make it a 2-hour episode, two 1 hour episodes back to back is I think for the first time too much time, maybe. Can I say that?
Ooh, we are treading into unknown waters.
I mean, it's funny for me because usually we'll read a book like Ender's Game and we're like, oh yeah, they're doing a feature film. Yeah, they have enough time to get through everything, and it's like, oh no, No, they did it. They like did an hour and a half of a movie, and it was like,
Nah.
wow. Where like I watched both. I think like the runtime of the first episode is 45 minutes with credits, and the runtime of the second episode is an hour and 3 with credits. So I think total wise is an hour 40. So it's about a feature film length for the shortest book in the whole series. And there are some issues that arrive because of that.
From that, which we'll get into. Now,
what is IMDb rate this? Oh, I also should say something that I noticed, a fun fact that I don't know if you're about to mention, but I did notice this fun fact. Neil Patrick Harris is one of the producers on the show.
Yeah, I just thought that was a known fact.
I
was going to mention it, but like, he's one of the producers, which is what I was about to say. See, it might have been too much time, but Neil Patrick Harris understood we need to give things time.
Well, I also think Neil Patrick Harris probably is like I think he did it because he's a big fan of the books, and he's just like, hey, I really want to do this. Let's do it. I don't know if he originally was the plan for playing Olaf, but as the producer, I'm sure he had a lot of say on who played Olaf.
I think I read an article, and don't hold me to this, but I think I read an article that like he read the books with his kids.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They loved them. But How I Met Your Mother, in portions of it, he can't really show his kids when his kids are younger.
Of course.
And so he wanted to do something that he could still show his younger kids.
And Bad Beginning is friendly, child friendly.
Like, this series is child friendly. It's dark, but it's child friendly.
Exactly. I mean, it is like like watching the first Percy Jackson TV show, not the actual movie, or reading the first book. It has some dark moments, but it is aimed towards children.
It's aimed towards children, right? So like, cool. Now, before I get into the rating, it was directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. Fantastic last name.
Yeah, good name.
And the IMDb rating was a 7.6 out of 10 for The Bad Beginning Part 1.
Okay.
Should we jump into it?
Well, before we jump into it, because we're doing a series, usually Stephen has a fun question time. I have a fun question time usually every other episode, because we do 2 parts of the movies. But I get to do fun question time for every episode. So
right.
So my first fun question for you of this whole series is, what would be your talent as an orphan? Biting, reading, or inventing? Which talent would you like? I just thought it would be really entertaining to talk about their talents, which is biting, reading, or inventing, and you get to choose which one you would like, sir. And if your answer is biting, I'm gonna be like, fair. To be able to bite through anything, that's dope.
Like, this is not the questions I thought I was going to be answering on this.
I wanted to have fun. I was like, you know what? This is going to make Ankit crack. So I'm gonna choose something that's fun.
Usually, there is some sort of intellectual thought process into the answers I need to give for Steven's question.
Have you seen this TV show? How ridiculous they've made it? I feel like I had to go this ridiculous with the questions.
I approve, and based on the TV show, biting, because oh boy does Sonny have some impressive jaw muscles.
Okay, cool, biting, yeah. I think I would choose reading, because to be able to, I think I'd choose inventing. Just be able to create anything. Just have that thought and be like, oh, this becomes this becomes that. I think that's fantastic.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that was probably my actual choice, but
biting's appropriate. Okay, so a quick summary of the book. Bad Beginning, Part 1. We're gonna just explain what Bad Beginning is about. The 3 children, the Boulder orphans, Sunny, Violet, and Klaus, are on Briny Beach one day, and they're notified that their parents have perished in a fire. And they go live with a bad name named Count Olaf, who is a actor. So it's really fun for Ankit and I to critique this, because he is playing an actor, so we get to talk about some of the bad acting that Olaf has, as well, as part of our funness. And they live with him, a lot of travesty happens, and it's about them trying to survive Olaf, and Olaf trying to steal their fortune. It's a very simple plot, but it's really fun, and the book does a really good job of taking you on the journey through the orphan's perspective, and it gets deeper as you go through, of all 13 books, from what I understand, because obviously I've only read the first 2 books, but the point of the Boat of the Orphans is they just keep having another unfortunate event after another unfortunate event. But it is a family book because they stick together no matter what. And like I said in the question, if you pay attention, Sunny is really good at biting things. Violet is really good at inventing things. She's the older sibling, and Sunny's the baby. And Klaus, the middle child, who's the only boy, is really good at reading. So they all 3 have very specific talents, and that is the basic of what the unfortunate event is about.
Cool. Let's jump into the episodes.
So it starts with an opening theme song sung by Neil Patrick Harris, which I'm like, if you're gonna pay Neil Patrick Harris, you're gonna get him to sing something. I'd be obviously.
Now, Stephen, do you remember Neil Patrick Harris and Leonardo DiCaprio are 2 different people?
Hey, I made the mistake once. You shoot me in the face. And see how it is. What are your thoughts on the opening theme song? I think it changes every episode. I don't know if you noticed between the 2 episodes, but I think it's.
So I'm not gonna lie. Didn't notice that it changed every episode because I skipped the intro in the second episode. So now I know not to skip the intro anymore.
Okay. What did you think of the opening song? I think it's fun. I think it sets us up for this whatever aesthetic they're trying to build in the show.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. I was here for it.
Yeah.
Cool. Fun way to do the credits.
And definitely because they got Neil Patrick Harris. So the show opens up with some typewriter, and like it typewrites, for Beatrice, dear Beatrice, dead. This is in the book, like in the original book. It's like written on the book, so it's because Beatrice is a thing he talks about in the not in the book itself, but in the prep when you read the intros.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite interesting.
Like the dedication.
Mm-hmm. It's in the dedication, yeah. And then the show starts, and I'd say it's a good opening. It starts exactly like the book. It leaves nothing to the imagination, and I think that's great. And it's the Lemony Snicket is played by Patrick Warburton, who is a great voice. Patrick Warburton has probably the best narration voice. It's Joe from Family Guy. How could you go wrong?
That's who it is.
He's also the Tick, and he's in Ted 2. And Ted.
No, I know him from other things. I just couldn't recognize his voice.
Yeah, it's Joe from Family Guy. Yeah,
okay,
that's one of the voices he does. I think he's done other things as well. But Patrick Warburton is just a very specific vocal pattern.
He's done a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And I just clicked on his IMDb. Do you want to know what the first thing that pops up under his previous is?
Ted?
Baby Shark's Big Show.
Okay. That's amazing. Go Patrick Warburton. One thing that's really interesting at the start of the TV show is Patrick Warburton's in a sewer. So obviously, if you're going to put the actual narrator of the book in the TV show, which is quite a fascinating thing to do, you have to give him a location. So I just think it's a really interesting location to put him in. And he keeps lighting a match that keeps burning. And I was very engaged by his performance.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're seeing the children go to the beach. So, which is added on because, in the book, we don't see them go to the beach. So I'm fine with this. This is a good addition.
Cool.
A lot of the additions of the episodes is something that Ankit and I will talk about. Some things that get getting added is due to the fact that it is only 127 pages. I think Ankit said at the beginning of the episode.
162.
162. Thank you. It's only 160 pages, and if you're running an hour and 45 minute for 2 episodes, so basically a minute and a bit less than a minute per page.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Just over a minute per page.
just over a minute per page.
No,
Thank you.
no, less than a minute per
Under.
page.
Under,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
If the time of the episode is shorter, then it's under, right?
Look, man, it's been a really long week.
I don't teach math. I'll talk to the math teacher downstairs. That's my mom. So
I'll talk to the one that's in the living room. That's my mother.
one of the things that I thought was interesting is, so in Briny Beach in the book, all three children are kind of doing their own thing. Sonny's like chewing on driftwood. Klaus is reading a book on sea life and like checking out the sea life that's around Briny Beach. And Violet is
skipping rocks.
But in the TV show, they've decided to kind of have them all work together on an invention Violet's been cooking up, the how to skip rocks. And she gives everyone kind of helps her with this invention. They give Sunny a rock to chew, and CGI Baby is weird.
Dude, CGI Baby's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, like, the CGI is bad. Can we be honest? Is it me?
Okay, which part of it?
Just when the baby was chewing the rock, I was just like, the CGI of the baby sometimes just gets a little bit uncanny valley for me.
Yeah, but I think it fits the style that they're kind of going for.
I respect and get it. I'm not like trying to like make it like my whole argument against the show. I just think it puts it into this weird uncanny valley for me. Does that make sense?
No, fair enough. There are times, because like I'm watching this show with my mom, and there are times when she's like, "How does the baby?" I'm gonna stop asking questions.
So then Klaus quotes Einstein and James Brown, by the way. And my question popped in my head, and the first time in Series for Spence, because I didn't ask this the whole time in the book, was like, when are we? Like, when are we? Like, because in history, like,
when are we? Where are we? Why are we? Oh wait, no, that last one is an existential crisis. When are we and where are we? I still have those questions.
So my thing about the book is it feels very timeless. It doesn't put us in a time period. It feels like it is I see it as a time period pre-television, maybe pre like some entertainment, and because they don't talk about TV at all in the first book at all, so I don't know what exists in this world, to like kind of put it in a time. But I think like quoting James Brown was like definitely like are we in the modern day? Oh, okay. But then like there's things in the show that make it not feel the modern day. So it's a very weird, like uncanny, like pick a lane. Is that too much to ask? I just feel like pick a lane.
I feel like I'm still questioning when are we and where are we?
Okay, good. So Mr. Poe then shows up just like in the book and is coughing down the beach. I will say the actor who plays Mr. Poe, spot on. He does a very good job as Mr. Poe.
He understood cough. He nailed it.
This is the second Mr. Poe I've seen. I think both of them have played Mr. Poe well.
Okay.
By the way, spoiler. Well, we will get to the movie maybe eventually. Maybe. So Mr. Poe shows up at the beach to tell the children their mother and father are dead. Spoiler alert. They die in the first 5 seconds of the book. And in the first minute of the show. He's like, they perished in a fire. The word perished here means...
We know what perished means.
Yeah, thank you. So Lemony Snicket has this really interesting style in the book of constantly reminding the reader what words mean. I think it's really helpful for younger kids when they're reading. They see a word and they don't have to look it up. And I think it's such a good writing style. I think it's such a especially for children, it's such a good thing for them to see and read and hear. I think it's done really well. And I think taking it from book to this TV show it's just done well. I just point that out. I think it's done well. I don't feel like it's weird. I think it's put into dialogue well. I like it in the narration. So I like they keep that Lemony thing of everyone trying to explain what a word means, especially if, let's say you were watching this with your family, if you had children, you don't have to explain what it means because the show does it for you.
Yeah, I think it works well, and it does work well in the sense that, you know, they are talking to kids, and it's just like, okay, hey, you know, this might be the case, right? But like they did a really good job of
Mhm.
doing that to where it didn't feel forced. Even when we have Lemony Snicket as the narrator coming in and explaining stuff, which happens later in the episode, it doesn't ever feel forced because you've already introduced him as our narrator and you have set up who this character is from right in the get-go. So at no point does it feel forced when someone is explaining that.
So we then cut to Lemony as a detective trying to figure out the fire. And I was like, well, this isn't really in the book. It's intriguing, don't get me wrong, but it's just, I felt it was a bit fluffy here. I felt like we could have just continued on the story of the orphans. I think a lot of the times in the episode we cut to Lemony where I'm like, no, I just want to stay with Klaus, Violet, and Sunny, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
I don't know if you agree, but that's my feeling.
I think they do that sometimes just to break it up, right? And sometimes it works, sometimes it's fluff.
So he takes them to the remains of their home, and it, you know, they do that in the book too. They do go to the remains of the home, but like they actually stand in the burning wreckage of the home in the TV show, and it's quite funny because they don't really take anything from they don't take anything in the book, but they take a telescope in the film, like a little kaleidoscope, telescope, whatever the thing it is. But they take it in the TV show. And I watched them take it, and I was like, well, that's weird. That's not in the book at all. What's the point? Why are we doing this? Why are we adding intrigue when there wasn't intrigue? Like, it just felt, obviously, now that I know it's written by Lemony Snicket, he had finished all 13 books. Maybe he meant to put that in because, you know, read the first book so early on. But it does.
Yeah, I have a thought about some of it because there are certain plot points that I do know happen kind of later in the series.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I'll talk about that in the next episode. And don't worry, I will give a spoiler warning to anyone that's listening. So if you don't want to hear about some of the spoilery stuff that I do know, then you can close your ears. Steven, sorry, you're going to hear it.
Dang it, don't spoil for me. I need to read the rest of the books.
No, but it doesn't spoil it based on the TV show. It's things that we learn in the TV show that technically we learn later in the books, from my understanding.
Oh, well, yeah, it just... I don't know. Like, we can have a discussion as people who understand adaptation. I mean, that's what our podcast is all about. Mm-hmm. Do we like it when a first episode of a series that is completed, because obviously all 13 books are done, do we like it when they take stuff from future books and add it in, trying to make the series more copacetic? I mean, I get it. It's Lemony Snicket's chance to rewrite maybe the first book, because now we know he is the screenwriter. But I just feel like at this time it's like, well, no. It just the first book felt so put together. It felt very consistent, and so it didn't need these additional things that I think get added in. But we'll talk more about that when we get there. Yeah. So then they go to live with Mr. and Mrs. Poe, and Mrs. Poe is like terrible. I hate her. I don't like Mrs. Poe at all, and I don't think Mrs. Poe is that bad in the book. I was like, who's this actor? Who's this character?
No. She is a completely different character, but oh boy, did that actress do well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm supposed to hate her, I guess. Like, I guess, like... She's a press agent, which is new. Like, that's new, and she writes for the papers. And like,
look, well done to Cleo King.
Is that her name, Cleo King?
That's the actress.
Oh,
she made us hate her.
Well done, Cleo King. I will also say, like, it's a bit weird that they're all sharing one bed in Mr. Poe's house, because, spoiler alert, that's one of the big reasons they complain about living with Olaf is they all share one bed. Like, they wouldn't have one, like, okay, I understand Mr. Poe like lives in a very small house and he has 2 other children and all this stuff, but like, even Mr. Poe doesn't give them one bed with the means that he has.
I think Mr. Poe gave them all separate sleeping bags.
That's
In the
what I
book.
mean. Like, it just feels very like you're ruining your future problem here. Do you know what I mean?
The sympathy gone.
And then Albert. So one of the brothers Poe asked. I said it was Albert. I wasn't sure if it was Albert or the other one. Albert asked if they set the fire and like how they got rid of their parents. And I was like, that's weird.
What?
Yeah, that one freaked me out. I was like, wow, you brothers are like weird.
Do you want to know the best part? They cut immediately away.
Yeah, they do. And then we hear about like the brothers' future, the brothers Poe's future from the narrator.
Which I don't think we learned in the book, but I did find it entertaining.
I found it entertaining. It's not in the book at all, but it is funny. And one ends up as a banker and one ends up living in a cave.
Yeah, and they both think that the other has it better.
Yeah, I think Albert's the one who lives in the cave because he's the one who asked the question about the fire.
Albert definitely did something and ran to a cave.
Literally, he set the next fire. You know, he set the fire on Mr. Poe's house because he was like, my dad. Blah. That's why he lives in a cave. Because he was like, they did it, I can do it too. I don't know.
Stephen, no! Arson is bad.
Arson's bad. I'm not encouraging it, but it was just the weirdest question in the middle of the episode where I'm like, why is Albert a dick? So on that note, we're gonna take a snack break on Albert being a dick.
Go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the snack break. I hope you are all enjoying this episode of Flip the Scripts. If you are enjoying this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, hit that like button. It really does help us out. And if you're listening on any of the podcast apps like Spotify, Apple Podcast, anything like that, be sure to hit that follow button. Leave a rating or review. That really helps us out a lot. And thank you so much to anyone who has already done this. Thank you to anyone who will do this in the future. It really, really does help us out a lot. Now, if you would like to gain access to some bonus content, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/coopforge. And speaking of patrons, I want to give a big shout out to Lucy Sadler, who increased her patronage to the production manager level. Lucy, thank you so much. It really means the world to us. And thanks to you, we're able to do bigger and better things, hopefully, that you, the listeners, will enjoy. So, listeners, if you sign up for the Patreon, you get access to different types of bonus content, like access to our notes, access to some bonus videos, bonus audios, different things like that. You also get access to everything from all three shows hosted here on Co-op Forge. So not only do you get content from Flip the Scripts, you also get it from Post Finale and Seattle Across the Pond. So again, if you want to sign up, it is patreon.com/coopforge. So patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. Now, if you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, that's great as well. Thank you so much. The best way to help grow the show is just reach out to a friend and tell them about the show. Word of mouth is a fantastic way to grow the show, and it really does help us out. Just reach out and be like, hey, you love books, or hey, you love movies. There's this show called Flip the Scripts. It's new, it's fun. The hosts are really funny, they're silly, they get into arguments sometimes, but at the end of the day, they're taking a look at adaptations and all types of adaptations. It really does help us out, and thank you to anyone who has done this already, who will do this in the future. And also be sure to follow us on social media. You can follow Flip the Scripts at Flip the Scripts Pod on Instagram and Facebook, and you can also follow Co-op Forge, which we post content from all the shows here on Co-op Forge on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and that's at Co-op Forge, so that's CO_OPFORGE. It really does mean a lot that you are all listening to this episode, so let's get back into it. We're back!
We're back, everyone. All right, so we cut to them meeting Justice Strauss in the front. I've seen this actress before. I forget where I've seen her. I've seen her in so many things.
Keep talking. I'll do some research.
She's a really interesting actor because she has a really interesting cadence on her speech. I just forget where I've seen her before. And they add a lot to her dialogue to make the kids want to live with her. Like, she's like baguette for Sunny to cut, and books for Klaus to read, and things to help Violet invent. And it was like, And then they're like, oh, and there's Olaf's house. So it was just, in the book, you didn't need it because they were like, oh, look, beautiful house. But then she's like, no, Olaf's my neighbor. And it just, you knew it was going to be bad.
Okay. Also, I have some information.
Oh, okay. Information.
This actress is named Joanne Cusack. I believe that is how I pronounce the name. I am sorry for butchering any names. Now, where you might know her from. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. She plays Dr. Burton.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't seen that film or read that book. But there you go.
That
is something that she's
on
known
our
from.
podcast.
Cool. If you have seen Klaus, she voices Mrs. Crumb. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have not.
She is in, obviously, this show. But the thing that you most likely know her from, do you want to take a wild guess at what it is? I'm going to give you a hint.
Okay.
It is animated.
It's animated?
It's animated. But this is why you know her voice.
Oh, it's animated. Is it?
It's famously animated.
It's famously animated?
It's very famous, and it is animated.
Is it Disney?
Yes.
Oh. Is it modern Disney?
Technically.
Okay. Frozen?
She's the voice of Jessie in the Toy Story series.
Oh, really? That's
yeah.
Okay. That's Pixar. That's not Disney. Well, I guess Disney.
It's
Pixar.
Disney Pixar.
Well, Pixar was Pixar before Disney. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess
that's why I said technically.
Was Toy Story 2 after the merger or before the merger? I mean, I don't know.
I don't remember. But, yeah, she voices Jessie.
Oh, interesting. Well, her voice, she has a very interesting cadence as an actor. That's all I got to say about her. So they see Olaf's house, and I was like, oh, it's a good set. I like Olaf's house. Like, they did a good job of showing
I looked at it, and I was like, well, that's straight from the book. Cool. The
only thing I will say, and I think it's the only time I'll talk about the movie with Jim Carrey, before we get back to talking about this, is they steal Jim Carrey's entrance from the movie into the film.
Well, if Jim Carrey did it well, Neil Patrick Harris, why break something that's wrong?
That's true. So he's up in a tower, and they ring his doorbell, and he's like, oh. And he's like, oh, I forgot to go answer the door. So he runs down the stairs to go answer the door. I said NPH, I think, is a good Olaf. Like, from a first look at him, I was like, wow, that is Olaf from the books. Maybe he's a bit shorter than I imagined him, because in the book, you read him as like this very tall figure, and like even as an adult, you read him taller than you, probably.
I'm 5'5". I read most people as taller than me.
Yeah, and I'm 6'1", and I read him as 6'3", so there you go.
Okay,
so
I imagined him as like a tall, lanky boy.
Yeah.
Kind of like a... Do you follow basketball at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
Have you heard of this incredible athlete named Victor Wembanyama?
Sounds amazing.
He's like 7'1", incredibly talented. He's like 19 years old.
Wow.
He's like just incredible. He was the number one pick, not the most recent one, but the one before that. He just finished his rookie year, just won a silver medal with France at the Olympics. Like, incredible athlete, right?
Yeah. Did we win gold?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Good to know. I don't.
Yeah, LeBron, KD, and Steph had something to say about that.
I mean, if you have Steph Curry on the team, I feel like you're gonna win. He's one of the best shooters in the whole game.
He is the best shooter of all time.
Kobe Bryant might have something to say about that if he was alive.
He has the most three-pointers ever made. He has the most three-pointers ever made in a season, and like just is incredibly good at shooting a basketball from three-point.
No, fair. I'm not here to argue who's the best at everything. I'm saying shooter.
That's fair. Player, shooter.
Yeah, yeah. Michael Jordan was probably the best to the bucket too, back in the day. So
Anyway, so
yeah,
man is tall and lanky.
so
I
yeah, you
kind of
kind
read
of
it as tall and lanky,
yeah,
but
I
I
agree with
like
that.
Neil Patrick Harris as Olaf. He does great.
Yeah. So he starts to rehearse his first line, which I thought was it's not in the book, but I did like it. I think it's hilarious. There's a lot of antics that MPH does in the show that I know is in book where like it's not book. Like there's a lot of things that MPH added to the scenes that weren't in the book. But like Olaf as a character, I mean like if you wanted to read the book exactly the book are you see Olaf through the perspective of the kids always. You always read Olaf through the perspective of Violet Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
You never read Olaf through Olaf's perspective, right? At least in the first book. So I think Olaf has a little bit of freedom as an actor to play with, and I think Neil Patrick Harris ran with it. Now, does it help every scene? No, but sometimes it's entertaining.
This was one of those times. Hello, hello, hello,
Hello,
hello, hello.
So
Hello?
he opens the door, and I was like, yeah. So there is the eye tattoo on his ankle. Now, something that Ankit might not know. Or maybe he does know. Well,
I know this fun fact.
Ankit doesn't watch a lot of movies, but maybe he doesn't know. The eye tattoo in the book is originally just an eye. It looks like a normal eye. Now, the reason that they couldn't do that in the TV show is because the one Jim Carrey was in was actually just an eye. So they had to make it different.
Oh, I didn't know that. I just had a different fun fact.
Oh, what's your fun fact?
So I saw this randomly at some point, and for some reason this is in my brain.
Oh.
So apparently in season 1 of the TV show, whenever you see it, they had to repaint it. So every day they would have to repaint the tattoo.
Oh, that's
and
hilarious.
So to make things easier, Neil Patrick Harris just got the tattoo of the eye for seasons 2 and 3. So now he just has a tattoo of the eye.
That's hilarious. That's so funny. But no, they had to so there is a lot of one of our running jokes here on this podcast is because of Harry Potter. That is one of the running jokes because I love Harry Potter so much. But
what is it this time?
Well, no, this time it's because of the movie, the other movie.
Oh, okay, fine.
A lot of things aesthetically, because if they wanted to, I think the movie made a lot of missteps and it's a problem, and eventually maybe we'll talk about it. But because if the movie did it one way, this TV show wants to take it in a completely other direction. I think that's the goal of this TV show. If Jim Carrey did it, Neil Patrick Harris won't do it.
Cool.
Because I don't think he's trying to be compared to Jim Carrey. I mean, it's hard. I mean, Jim Carrey has a curse. I don't know. Do you know the Jim Carrey curse? Have you ever heard the Jim Carrey curse?
No.
Whenever they try to do a sequel or a remake of a Jim Carrey project, it fails. And that was true in all of the 90s. So in The Mask, for example, in the first one, Jim Carrey's in it, but then he leaves, and then the second one he's not in it, and it's terrible.
Well, hey, I think they broke the curse.
I hope so. We'll see how far they finished the show, so yeah, obviously they did break the curse, right? Because if it wasn't successful, Netflix wouldn't have redone the 2 seasons.
Exactly. And here is the thing: is that I couldn't find. Normally, I try to give budgets for stuff. I just could not find, and nowhere is there a budget for how much it cost. But I did find an interview that Neil Patrick Harris did where he's like, yeah, I'm fascinated every single time that I look at the production budget because, oh my goodness, I am baffled that someone's willing to take this much of a chance on me.
Yeah. Then Lemony has a narration thing, and he's like, I met Olaf once. And I was like, what? What?
Okay, Lemony.
I caught that, and I was a bit off put by it because I'm like, maybe that is true, but it's not in this book. And again, running into an issue where I'm like, you're ruining future surprises. We talk a lot about this podcast. There's something about a surprise for the reader, or just a surprise in general, let us discover that. Like, you don't have to tell us. Like, I love a narrator, but you don't have to tell us that. Then he gives them a giant chore list. He does give them that, but not the first day they come in. But he does give them the giant chore list, and I'm fine with it. It's funny. It's cutting a couple scenes together.
Sure.
I get it. You still have like 30 minutes left of the episode, so I was like, okay, where are we going with this? Maybe 20 minutes of chores would have been too much to watch. I get it. But
what do you mean? That's all I wanted to watch. I was intrigued by children scrubbing a bathroom with toothbrushes that then they have to use in the morning.
Yeah. So then he takes them up to their bedroom. He doesn't give them a tour of the house, which I thought was interesting. Like, he kind of gives them a tour of the house. Sorry, he does give them a tour of the house, and he shows them all the places in the house. And I thought it was interesting. The one thing he doesn't point at is like his tower. He doesn't like acknowledge that his tower is in the room, and tells them not to go in there on the tour. But you would think you would see like a staircase that leads up to his tower somewhere in the house, but you don't see it. But he takes them to their bedroom, and there's rocks in the bedroom, and that was where I was like, what? Like, I get it. Olaf's a bad person, and yes, he did have one bed, but like, they had clothes and like a box for storage stuff. There was no rocks in their room.
Yeah, they had a cardboard box
to store their clothes.
Yeah.
A bed and a box. That's all they got. But the bed was spot on. The little twin bed. I thought that was good. So then Violet's like, we just got to do it. We just got to stay happy. And, Violet's kind of the positive person in the room. And you know what? I will say the kid actors are very good in this show. I do think the actors playing Klaus and Sonny, like, for kid actors, they're doing a good job. They're holding their own.
Yeah. Now, here is the thing. I don't think either of them are actually kids when this is filmed.
No, don't tell me that.
Keep talking. I'll give you some research.
All right. So, 2 chores. So they start doing chores. Yeah, like Ankit said, they clean with toothbrushes. Olaf is supervising the chores, which he doesn't do in the book at all. The thing about the chores is Olaf will leave them chores and then leave the house to go do antics. And no one really knows what Olaf's up to when he leaves the house, or he's up in his tower. He doesn't like to supervise the chores. He just leaves them be. So it's weird in this show they've decided to let him supervise all the chores. Then Justice Strauss comes over to bring over lamb, which is also new. And Olaf then tells Strauss how bad the children are. And he's trying to convince her they're so bad, which is also like, that's new. That's not in the book at all. And then Olaf comes up to see if they're cleaning, and apparently they finished the whole list in the time that he was talking to Justice Strauss. All right.
Fascinating. Cool. Also, I was mistaken. They were kids. But the fact that I remembered was that the actor playing Klaus is older than the actor playing Violet.
That is funny. I like that. That's funny. Good job, Ankit. I give you applause for that one. Good research. He then comes back to her and like throws the lamb shank at lamb, and it's like, it's too salty, and like does this.
I laughed.
I was a good line, but also at the same time, I'm like, he's like, yeah, they're too rich. You know what I said? I said this show has a Wes Anderson vibe. It's a very interesting vibe for this TV show. I love Wes Anderson. I think Moonrise Kingdom is a masterpiece if you've ever seen it.
Steven, what do you think?
Yeah, you've never seen Moonrise Kingdom. Go watch Moonrise Kingdom. It's a masterpiece.
For context, for people who are confused on what Wes Anderson is, known for, here are some of the films, because I'm not going to lie, I forgot too. But The Grand Budapest Hotel, very popular one. I have seen that one. Fantastic Mr. Fox. You also have things like The Squid and the Whale and The Swan.
Yeah, and Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah. But you already named that one, so I wasn't going to name that. I just picked 4 other random ones.
Love Moonrise Kingdom. I think it's one of his best films. So it has this weird Wes Anderson vibe of like the way they do dialogue and the way they kind of hit end scenes, and yeah, I enjoy Wes Anderson, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. So I could see why, maybe this show didn't appeal to everyone when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard some people did not like this show when it came out. We'll talk more when we read the audience reviews of Rotten Tomatoes when we get there. So, yeah. So they finish all the cleaning, and they cut many days of them staying with Olaf to say he wants dinner for his troop. So in the book, Olaf leaves them with just instructions to make dinner and leaves them some money. But in the TV show, they want to use NPH as much as possible, so they write a new scene where he gives them the instruction and then hands them money to go get dinner. So they go to Justice Strauss to see her library to find a recipe, and they spend some time talking about the telescope again, and this is interrupting the whole reason they're at the library, and to find a recipe for dinner is one of the reasons they're there. So it I don't know. It just, every time they mention this telescope, I'm like, cool, yeah, it's interesting, but it's cut into the plot, and we only have 45 minutes to tell this half of the book.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So
I don't really know what else to say about that.
And then they go shopping. So they go shopping because they want to make pasta puttanesca, and they find the recipe. And Justice Strauss goes shopping with them in the TV show. In the book, they just go by themselves. They're very
smart, intelligent children.
They don't need it. Yeah. She teaches them of mitzvah also on the train, right? Of making food for people is a mitzvah. And I guess she's Jewish. Or there's a lot of Jewish references in this show. I was like, what? Is the director Jewish? Who's Jewish here? Is Lemony Snicket Jewish? Someone tell me, who's Jewish?
Give me a minute. Keep talking.
I just thought it was funny. As a Jew, I found it very entertaining when random Jewish things get said in a TV show.
Fair.
So then they get everything with Justice Strauss, and they open the door, and they cut to a musical number of It's the Count. And I wrote, oh,
perfect.
Because we have Neil Patrick Harris.
Perfect.
And we need to do it. And I wrote, it's fun. And I love the troupe. I think they're the character, the casting of the troupe is just so well done.
So good.
My favorite of the troupe is the one guy who's he's supposed to be there's a character that is in Olaf's troupe that's supposed to be the man dressed as a woman, but they've changed it to an androgynous male is the way they write his character. I think that's his title, literally, androgynous male. And he is my favorite because he just says stuff that is in a very monotone thing. He's just yeah, I like the baby too. And I just think it's just every time he says something, I'm just cracking up. I love
John DeSantis as Bald Man.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. My favorite is different.
So my favorite character in the show so far, and we haven't really got there because I forget to keep mentioning it.
Then we'll wait. We'll wait until we get there.
So he teaches them about being an audience and of his new show. And he's like, hey, this is how you be an audience. And I'm watching this going, wow, is this how we sound when we talk about theater? Please tell me this is not how we sound when we talk about theater to people who hate theater or don't know about it.
Hey, Dan. Hey, fun fact. Daniel Handler. His father was a Jewish refugee from Germany in 1939.
Good to know. So, hey, Lemony Snicket's Jewish. So it's a Jewish writer. Good to know. Hey. Feels good. So one of the things that happens in the middle of the scene, because he goes, where's dinner? Sonny replies with some subtitles, and I just busted out laughing. Because here's the thing. Obviously, only Klaus and Violet understand what Sonny's saying, because that's true in the book as well, and no one else understands what she's saying.
Right.
But they decided in this TV show for some reason to write her subtitles in the most hilarious fashion I've ever read in my life.
They're hilarious. They're so good.
Every time I read Sonny's subtitles, I am dying.
The other thing that I love is that, and it's kind of you find this out and you pick up on it later in this scene. But there is one other character that can understand Sunny.
The Hook Man.
The hook-handed man.
Exactly.
Because he just, at the end of the scene, he just goes, but the baby said there was cake.
Exactly. And that's why Sunny is my favorite character in the TV show.
Really? Mine is the hook-handed man.
Well, they're perfect together. Look at that.
Because the hook-handed man is just like, he's quite different. Like in the book, he's much more menacing.
It's true. And I think it's just funny that they play with that menacing, but also he has like this kindness.
And I love that he's menacing, but at the same time, he's like, they're kids. And I heard that there was cake.
Yeah. I mean, I'd stop for cake. So Olaf goes, all right, let's go have a box of Merlot while they make their dinner. And I was like, it's funny because he means Merlot. And we cut to the
pronunciation of words, what we do all the time.
Yes, we cut to cooking of the delicious pasta puttanesca. And then we cut to Olaf waiting for the food, and he's giving a lecture on acting. And as a director, I found this freaking hilarious because it is the most bullshit I have ever heard. And if I heard an actor saying this in my rehearsal room, they would no longer be my actor.
As an acting teacher, I concur.
Thank you. So,
do you want to tell the people what he was saying, roughly?
I don't remember. I blocked it because it was so bad.
We'll see if we can find a link to it, ladies and gentlemen. And if there's a link on YouTube to this scene, we'll put it in the description.
It was like something about like my favorite part of the theater is where is the food or something like that was the end of it. So the food comes in and everyone starts eating. Now, keep in mind, there is an argument in the book that happens in the kitchen because the kids made pasta puttanesca. Olaf wanted roast beef, but he didn't say roast beef, so they made the pasta puttanesca. And there's a bunch of, obviously he's a terrible man. We get this. That's the point of the book.
Wait, what?
Okay, Ankit, thank you. So he's a terrible man. But they decide to have the argument in front of all of his henchmen instead, which I think adds more comedy to it actually, because you get the hookman in there and all the other people. Also, they serve them the actual food, so you get to see them actually try to eat the pata puttanesca, which they're enjoying, by the way.
And then I do enjoy the line, but nobody likes it. And then all of them are just sitting there, and they're like, "Do I eat or do I spit it out?"
And they spit it out.
The henchman eats.
Yeah, the henchman.
No. I think most of them spit it out. Hookman eats.
Yeah. Also, the one guy, the bald guy, he's like, actually, it tastes kind of good. So it's a bit different, but like it's fine. It's fine. Klaus then, they have the whole argument about money in front of everyone, and he's mad about the one bed, and he slaps Klaus in front of everyone. That's different. In the book, he slaps Klaus in the kitchen because of the way he's like holding Sunny, and Klaus is trying to save Sunny. Mm-hmm. Not because Klaus stands up to Olaf. It's just a bit. It changes. It to me, it does change a bit because it doesn't like. To me, one of the reasons why the book is so interesting in that moment is because the way Klaus cares for Sunny, and it shows their relationship. So it does sacrifice that a bit to make a joke, and then.
But the thing is I think that they still did a really good job by, because like we said in the beginning of the book, they're all doing different things on the beach. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the beginning of the TV show, they're all working together. So we've already seen the closeness, I think, and the caring and the love. And so because they set it up well in the TV show, like I get where you're coming from, but I also think like they did a good job of still setting up the closeness and the caring beforehand, which allows them to make this change later. Yeah.
So they go to bed, and one thing that is missing in this bedroom is they're supposed to make an extra bed for Sunny. So the way they used to sleep in the room, according to the book, I mean, this isn't in the TV show, but in the book, Violet or Klaus would take the bed, one would take the floor, and they built basically a bed out of the old clothes that Mrs. Poe bought them, and they gave that to Sunny. So Sunny has like her own clothes bed, if you will, which is probably more comfortable than the bed that Olaf provided the children. And one of them will sleep on the bed, and one will sleep on the floor. And I think even the floor is supposed to be more comfortable than the bed itself.
Yeah.
And then they kind of have this saying of like, at least something's better than nothing. But living with Olaf is not better than nothing, is one of the things that the narrator keeps saying. We cut to Justice Strauss then reading an adoption book during narration, and I think that's quite interesting. It shows a different version of Justice Strauss. But again, it is a 45-minute episode of half the book. And we are halfway through the book, but there's just so much added that I'm like, why did we skip this? Why did we skip that? There's some things that are cut that I'm like, it cut, especially the next episode, that makes no sense because we spent so much time on other stuff this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So then the episode cuts to two people in the back of a car who are in a jail car. And they're like, oh, we have to go rescue the children. And my brain goes, are those the Baudelaire parents? Like, are they alive? Like, what the heck? Like from that, we're just talking about this book, so let's not talk about any other book or spoil anything else of who they are or what they are. But from the movie perspective, from the TV show perspective, these are the Baudelaire parents. These are their parents.
I am very confused by this.
So this is not in the book at all. Like this, there's a bunch of stuff that's just not in the book, and I'm like, why? Why do we need it? Like the intrigue of the book is the fire that took place, because we have no idea what started it or why. Also, the fight against Count Olaf is enough in this book to make us want to read the book. Why do we need to like this parent bit of like these parents being kidnapped and like who are they? And then at the end, the narration just kept dragging, and I was like, "Hey, come
just
on,
end the episode.
Wrap it up. Okay, so but that is the end of episode 1, The Bad Beginning, part 1. So, Ankit, I think this is a bit weird because usually we rate everything after. Last time I think we rated Avatar based on like every episode. We rated it. So
that sounds about right. And then we gave it a series rating.
We gave it a series rating. Yeah, that's true. So what would you rate? Not the book, because I think we'll do the book next week because that'll be the finishing of the book.
Sure.
So what would you rate the TV show? It's just a TV show. So the first episode is just a TV show, the pilot. What would you rate the pilot on a scale of 1 to 10, our usual scale of 1 to 10?
If I hadn't read the book?
Yeah, if you haven't read the book, sorry.
Probably about like a 7.5.
Yeah, I would say an 8. I think it's really enjoyable. I think the comedy sometimes lands. I think sometimes it doesn't, of course. I think like they're still fighting. I think the show is trying to find its footwork still.
Exactly. Yeah, so like 7.5, 7.8 is what I would go. I don't know if I would go all the way up to an 8, but I can see where you are. I mean, like, I think it's a very strong first episode for a TV show.
It makes you want to watch the next episode.
Yeah, like,
at least when I watched it originally, because I did not read the book again before I watched it when it came out. I was just excited for another series of Fortune Events, live action, if you will. I think I binged the first season, like the whole first season in like one day.
No, that's completely fair. I think for me, the only reason that it knocked down a little was mainly that ending.
Oh, yeah.
That I just felt like it dragged. It was just like there were moments where I felt like it dragged. And that's what knocked it down a little bit for me to about like a 7.5 instead of an 8. We
will talk about next week, I think, like the timing of the book versus the film.
Yeah.
Versus the TV show. I keep saying film. I apologize, everyone. TV show.
We'll do our best. We usually do films.
Yeah. So what would you rate this episode as an adaptation? So we've half the book compared to half the book.
I'd probably say about a 7.
Yeah, 6.8, 7. Yeah, I'd agree.
About a 7.
It runs the themes really well, I would say, and it does borrow a lot from the dialogue. It's not perfect. It's not like...
It's very close.
It's close, but like, I mean, for us to be happy, I think for us to have rated it 10 by 10, I think it needed to stick to... There was just so much added that I think deflated stuff later.
Yeah,
So
like
Poe,
and like some of the changes and things like that, I don't mind, right? Like I don't mind that the argument between Olaf and Klaus happened in front of the troop instead of privately in the kitchen. I don't mind that, right? I don't mind the Justice Strauss coming over and trying to give the kids some lamb. Like I thought that was fun, right? So like a lot of the additions I don't mind. The biggest thing for me is that weirdness at the end.
Yeah, I would agree. I also think there's a bit, it's like Poe giving them one bed as well. Like, we talked about
like
that
there are just a few things here and there, and hopefully it gets better. But like that's the thing is like I think like they added certain aspects of things that we don't know from the book yet.
There's also one that made me question a lot was like they were talking about the will of the Baudelaire parents, and it was Mr. Poe said, "You're going to go live with your closest living relative," and Klaus is like, "I don't think that's what closest means. Like, technically, closest living relative." That's not in the book at all. Like, he just says you're going to go live with the relative that's nearest me. Because, like, the only reason they go with Olaf, according to the book, at least from just reading The Bad Beginning, without having context of any other book in the series, is the reason why he goes with Olaf is they're still in town, and Poe is in town, and he runs the fortune. So it's easier for Poe.
No, it was this way they don't have to leave the city.
Well, yeah, that's also part of it, right? So it was weird to be like closest. And now I know this from the film, and I was like, well, the film gave that reasoning as well for the will. So the film, Jim Carrey version, said that you're going to go live with your closest living relative and made the same joke. Like it literally is word for word the same scene, with different actors. So it did make me go. It did make me kind of go, what? So maybe that's part of a future book. Is the closest living relative is in the will?
I thought it was in the book.
I read it, and I swear I looked for it, and I have the first edition, so maybe, I don't know. I didn't see it. Or maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us know if Stephen's wrong or if Stephen's right, because obviously we can't remember.
Yeah, but it did. Yeah, I think like the reason like they say with kind of Olaf being more of a we wanted to keep you in the city kind of thing than the will of the parents, I think is more unfortunate. So I think it fits more in line with the book's themes than you're going to go live with Olaf because it was your parents' will. Yeah. So I think that's quite interesting. Okay, well, that is the end of episode 1. We're really happy that you guys stayed with us all through episode 1. We're going to be back next week for part 2 of The Bad Beginning. Please join us, and keep in mind, join us next week for Bad Beginning, and we hope you guys like the series of Unfortunate Events. We're really happy to be doing it. I really enjoyed it. And we'll be talking about part 2 of The Bad Beginning, so the end of the first book next week.
It's an interesting time. Let us know your thoughts on this one. Let us know in the comments. Shoot us a message on social media. We would love to hear from you. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Do you love this series? Do you not? Are you excited that we're finally talking about this? I really don't know what adventure I'm in for because, like I said, I maybe have read the first book, and that's pretty much it. So something's about to happen, and I'm about to read 12 more books of this. So let us know your thoughts. Let us know your comments. We love hearing from you all. But until we see you next week for The Bad Beginning Part 2, bye.
Bye, y'all.
Hello, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of Flip the Scripts. Flip the Scripts is created, hosted, and produced by Ankit Madhira and Stephen Nieman. Our editor is Sebastien Hollich, the art is by Kshitija Madhira, and the music is by Sebastien Hollich. If you like the video, you can click to listen to the next part, or if it's not out yet, you can find one of our previous episodes.
Or if you want to check out some of our other content, here's a fun video from another one of our shows.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, comment, and hit that bell icon to get notified of all of our content when it releases.
Subscribe to our Patreon if you want bonus content.
Links to all of our social media and Patreon are in the episode description down below.
Thank you for supporting our content. Come back next week for more shenanigans from Co-op Forge.
New episodes for Flip the Scripts release every Friday, Seattle Across the Pond every other Thursday, and post finale every Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon.
Bye now.